Welcome to the Bolts Breakdown Podcast. This is a podcast for fans, by fans. My name is Boomer,
I'm Tommy.
and today is a very sad day. Today we will recap or react to Game 7 of the first round in the 2026 NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs, where the Lightning unfortunately were defeated by the Montreal Canadiens with a final score of 2-1. This is our reaction. It is very sad, but we will talk about it, and then we will continue to move on and cheer on this team. Tommy, what do you think about Game 7? How was it? Obviously, it's a terrible result, and we're very frustrated with it, I'm sure, but what did you think about the game overall, and where's your head at now that we are officially eliminated from this season?
So many mixed emotions. I would say that this was probably the season that I followed the Lightning most closely out of any season. I followed them, pretty closely, always keeping up with the score and the standings, and when I got the chance watching games. But this year, watching, 78 of 82 games or whatever it was that I ended up watching, and then all the playoff games, being invested with the players. It was a big investment, I felt like, this year, and as a fan, seeing us go out like that, gave me very mixed feelings, really, because I think we played many of the players. I think Cooper even said it. I don't know how much better we could have played than we just played in Game 7. And so seeing us go out like that, if there wasn't a scoreboard, I would say, wow, I am so happy with our team and how we played and what happened in the game and the results. But the reality is that the only thing that matters at the end of the day is the scoreboard at the end of the game, and nothing else really matters. And so, unfortunately, we were on the losing end of it, and so very sad, pretty devastated for our team who played like that and still lost, and sort of at a loss for where do we go from here, which I know that in the coming weeks we will cover. But yeah, just so many mixed feelings, and I'm sure you feel many of the same things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just frustrating. There's no other words for it. Ultimately, what I'm most disappointed with is just being without Lightning hockey. Like as you said, like this year has been phenomenal, and I love this team. Like the players were amazing, and we've overcome all this adversity. And like we started slow, but then we came back, and we have all these injuries. We're so unlucky, but we're still dominant. And we get to the playoffs, and obviously, I mean, if you've listened to the past episodes, I've had a lot of faith in this team, and it's never really faltered or wavered, even facing elimination, even facing maybe a 3-1 deficit early on. Like, I never really doubted the team. And so we took it to game 7, and I just had so much belief. And to watch that game, to watch us play, like I've been saying all series, like, hey, we can beat them. We're the better team. We just got to play like I know we can play. Like, we played that way, and we lost. So it sucks. And the disappointing part for me is hockey's over, Like, I've loved cheering
Yeah.
on the Bolts. Jordan and I love going to the games, like watching the interviews, and now it's all over. And it feels too
Yeah.
soon. It feels like this team's way too good, and there's just nothing you can do about it. It was so disappointing watching the post game interviews. Like, I feel like me talking about it right now is similar to how Hagel's interview went. Like, you could just tell he was like super defeated, and it was like, man, I don't. He said we held them without a shot in the second period and held them to 3 in the third, and we lost. Like, that's hockey, and it is. There's you can't get around it. It just sucks.
Yeah, I think as I mean, the game is stressful and nerve-wracking as always, but I think what it demonstrated to me was a little bit maybe of a cynical point of view of hockey and of sports in general, right? Because I heard recently somebody saying something that's great about sports is that um, there is this live element. Well, I think Cooper said it in his
Yeah, I think so.
post game
Yeah.
interview, right? But I heard it before too about sports because one of my friends is a really big Arsenal fan, and in the English Premier League, they have like all types of different tournaments they're doing at the same time, and you just never know how you're going to play day to day. And what matters at the end of the day is, yeah, the score and where you are in the standings, and that's pretty much it. And so I think it brought out this cynical part of me that was like, all this talk, all this strategy, all this play well, and none of it matters if you don't score more goals than the other team. And so part of me with Cooper's process over outcome thing, I get that. And then part of me gets mad at that because I'm like, process over outcome got us to game 7 and we lost 2-1. So I don't really know like how good I feel about process over outcome when our outcome keeps being the same thing. That's just kind of making me mad. Or as a fan, kind of feeling like I'm banging my head into the wall. And so that's not to say we flip it on its head and say outcome over process. We just, who cares? We just throw it to the wall like we don't really care anymore. But I do think that there is a huge element of winning games, no matter what the cost, and winning games no matter what happens, because that's what Canadians did yesterday, or whatever releases the other day, right? During that game, is they won despite being outplayed, being outmatched, being outskated, being out scoring chanced, right? I mean, everything was on the Lightning side. And I immediately after the game, because I was reminded by you, from an earlier time, went to Money Puck just because I wanted to see the deserve to win thing. And I was like, this is bad for my psyche, but
What did it
wow,
finish
I
at? Like
think we were
85%?
86.4% is what I saw when I looked on there.
Yeah.
That the Lightning deserved to win 86.4% of the 1,000 game simulations. Anyways, I know I'm rambling, but that's what I felt was that cynical side of me come up of like process over outcome. That's where it's led us.
I get what you're saying. I push back, and you can tell me if you disagree with this, but I think where it went wrong is not game 7. Like game 7, it's process over outcome. And in the long run, in a 7-game series, if we played like we played game 7, there's a, like, it's impossible. We would have crushed the Canadiens. We would not have lost. There's no way that they could have gotten the lucky bounces in 4 games to beat us if we had dominated like that. But the fact is, we didn't dominate like that the whole series. It really took till game 6 and 7 for us to show who exactly we were, right? In game 1 of the series, we had all those penalties, and Juraj Slavkovsky crushed us with a power play hat trick, Like in game 5, we laid an egg, and I know we talked about that, but it's like the effort wasn't there. And that's game 5. Like, we kind of did it to ourselves, right? We got away from the process, and that changed the outcome. And sure, we'd like
Yeah,
to sit here and say, like, game 7 we deserved, and we did. Like you mentioned, Tommy, all the analytics sites and stuff are saying we should have won 86% of the time, and we should have. I think all the players were like, we win 99 out of 100, and that's kind of how the game felt. But obviously, hockey is a game of luck a little bit, and they got 2 lucky bounces, and that was enough. So
yeah. I think, I mean, you're right. You're right. It is a 7 game series, and there were games where we didn't play our best. But I also think that to play devil's advocate on the other side is I think that Montreal didn't play their best either. And so there were
in game
games where
7
they weren't.
or throughout the series?
No, just, well, throughout the series. I mean, especially game 7, but throughout the series, they weren't playing the top that they could play either. And so I felt like the reason the series was so even is because when one team was playing at their top level, the other team, maybe was a little bit below them or made a few mistakes, and that team lost. But then it flipped for the next game, because that's what happened over and over again. Is it was like one game here, one game there, one game here, one game there. So I think we can say that of like over a 7 game series, yes, like we shouldn't have been in that position. That's true. But it went back and forth so much. I mean, Montreal probably during game 6 was saying, we're at home, game 6. We have the game on our stick. It's like 0-0. All we have to do is put a singular goal into the net and we can win the game. And they didn't. And so I'm sure that Montreal fans were kicking themselves after game 6 of like, we brought them home to the Bell Center, game 6. We couldn't score a single goal. That would have won them the series if they scored one goal. So even in that way, I'm like, okay, it's so even, so even. It just brings me to game 7 of like, that was the epitome of, I guess you could say, bad luck, but also just, outcome over process is what Martin St. Louis did in order to win that game.
I don't
And
know.
maybe lucky
So
bounces.
yeah, I don't think Montreal won that game. Like, I think it just
Well,
I don't know.
that's just
Like,
hope.
well, no, it is. It isn't just cope. Like, I'm just saying, like, Montreal definitely they won the game. Like, the score's 2-1. They're moving on.
Sure.
I'm not arguing that. Obviously, I'm saying
Yeah, yeah,
like they
yeah.
didn't take it from us. And I said that
No.
earlier in the series too. Like, I never really felt like Montreal was overpowering us. And I stand by
No.
that. Like, I don't think they did. Sure,
Yeah, I
they played
agree.
better in a couple games, but they played better because of our lack of execution, right? I mean, that's how I
Yep.
saw it. Did you see the series differently? Did you? Obviously, Montreal has great defensive skill. We've talked about that, and I'll give all the credit to them for that because it was brilliant. But you can defend all you want, and you're still not going to be ahead of the other team. You know, you'll just keep them at
Yeah.
zero. And I never
Well,
felt like we were in trouble facing Montreal's offense. I felt like we always had it under wraps, and we just again a couple mistakes, a couple lucky bounces. I off the top of my head, I count 3 goals for Montreal that went in off of our defender. Like that's terrible. And then there's the
hmm
Kirby Doc goal where Vasi poke checks it and it kind of bounces off him and then into the net, right? There's the Lane
yeah.
Hudson goal that goes through 6 people into the top corner of the net. Like I don't know. I'm not blaming it all on luck. And Montreal deserves the series. They deserve to be the team that moves on. It just is a little bit crushing as a fan to look at that series, knowing how good the Lightning could be, and sit here and say it slipped away.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I do think there's an element of deserve versus achieve, right? I think when I would say I disagree that Montreal deserved to win the series. I don't think they deserve to win the series based on the deserve to win game seven. So the series came down to game seven. And I know that there were 6 other games in the series. However, when you get to game seven, the reality is that they don't really matter anymore. It's a series of one. And so it's best of one, right? We even talked about after game five, or I think game four, that now that we've tied it up, it's going to be a best of three, right? And then we split the next two, which means guess what? It's a best of one. And so I think when we say who deserved to win the series, what do we mean by deserve? I think deserve is like you played a better game. And so I don't think that Montreal deserved to win the series. I don't think they played a better game. I think maybe you could say Dobesh played a really a better game than Vasilevsky. I mean, I know they were lucky
no.
bounces, but I mean there were like 30 shots, versus 9 shots or something like that. It was unbelievable, and so maybe we were just unlucky. Whatever. There's so many ways we could think about it, but no, I mean, I don't know if I don't know if they deserved it over us necessarily. However, they still won the series, and so it is what it is. I think people are going to go to the extremes with these kinds of things happening, right? Where we lose in the first round. And I felt like right after the game, I was like, listen, our team deserved to win the game. That's what I felt. And it's frustrating that we didn't. We couldn't score more than a single goal with all of that offense, and we let in 2 goals with all of that defense. I don't know how we did that. However, a lot of times I think, well, sometimes you just weren't the better team. But it's like hard to say that when you watch the game. And so I don't know how you justify what happened with what we saw. It just didn't match. And so it's very confusing, even as a fan of it's easy to say fire Cooper, fire Cooch, fire Vasi, like fire everybody. I think people like to say those kind of things just to like get people riled up. But and that Montreal is like, oh, they killed us or something. It's like, man, it really sucks because I felt like uh,
I I always bring it back to what Cooper says. It's sometimes you can win the game but not the score. And he
yeah,
said that in his post-game presser, and that's what happened. I mean, how I think about this series is it's our own fault. We shouldn't have let it get to 7. Like that's it. Like the bounces suck, and we can whine and cry and say we shouldn't be out, but we are out. And the only thing we can do about it is say we should have been better through the first 6. Like if we didn't
yeah,
have
I
the
would.
clunker in game 1, if we didn't have the clunker in game 5, like we wouldn't have had to face the 2 bad bounces that we got. And for those that
hmm
maybe didn't see it and you're just lost and you're trying to catch up with the Lightning, the 2 bad bounces we're talking about, one went in. It was a deflection from the blue line. Montreal took a shot from the blue line. They had somebody in front of Vasilevsky who tipped it. It was going about 5 feet wide of the net, and it hit J.J. Moser's shin and went into our net. And then their second goal was another just deep shot. It went past Vasilevsky, hit the boards behind him, kind of came flying back out, and Newhook from Montreal wasn't even in a good position to score necessarily. He shot it at Vasilevsky, and it went off his back and into the net. So just two bad bounces really is all it took, and the Canadiens won 2-1. So it's those two bounces. How I reckon with it is, again, it was our fault to let them get to 7. And when you get to 7, like you said, it's game of 1. Anything can happen in a hockey game. And something happened. Cooper, I laughed at Cooper's post-game comment. He said, the hockey gods have been in my favor many times, or been in my corner many times, but tonight they were in the other corner. And I thought that was fitting. I mean,
how do you gauge how successful your season was? The GM is the guy who has to decide how well the season went and what kind of changes need to be made. And so I think looking back on, game 7, my hope would be that somebody like JBB has a clear mind and a clear head to think through how successful or not was the season. It's the same as last season, but did it look different than last season? Did it look different than the season before? And I don't know. I mean,
I'll
I
ask you
can't
that
feel that right now
question,
because I'm
Tommy.
just in the moment of misery, but I think that's
What
for
do
him
you
to
think?
decide.
What do you think, though? As a fan watching, I know this was your most watched season, but watching both seasons, was this different? Or is it just a repeat of last year and that's adding to your frustration?
Oh, exactly. This is what I mean. It's a tough question. I
But
don't
to you,
know. I
was
think
it different? Was this team better suited for a long run than last year?
watching them in the first round play 7 games, if they had continued that way, the way that they were playing, I'm talking about the inconsistency. That's what I'm talking about. The inconsistency between how they played in game 7, overtime of game, 2 or 4, whatever it was, um, where they played phenomenal. If they had continued that inconsistently, I don't really see them as being this like long run playoff team. I felt like
More
when we
so
were a
than
long run
did we
playoff,
improve though from last year or no?
I mean, I think so. I think the way that I think we just it's annoying. We keep running into these teams who are like juggernauts, and it's frustrating because I was okay. This is maybe a tangent, but I was looking at the standings because I was getting frustrated with the fact that we're playing Montreal and Vegas, or not Vegas, but the Oilers were playing Anaheim and Vegas is playing Utah. And I was like getting frustrated with the standings because I was looking at them and I was like, if we did say something crazy like 1 through 16, right? There's 16 teams that get in the playoffs, but let's just say the entire league you do 1 through 16. I think there would be 4 more Eastern Conference teams than Western Conference teams
Right.
getting in, first of all. And then we would have been, I think, 5 out of the 16 as I looked through it. So we would have played the 12 seed, which I believe was Ottawa. And Ottawa got utterly embarrassed by Carolina, who I would say that if all things are considered, we're pretty even with Carolina when we play them. Like we're a pretty even team. They're good. We're good. I think Carolina, Montreal, maybe Buffalo, and us are all pretty even at times if you watch the games during the year. So Ottawa's not. Like Ottawa just doesn't look the same. Ottawa got blasted. And so even thinking through that, like Ottawa, I think the next team that we would have played, if it was like a point different, would have been Anaheim. And I'm like, I would love to play Anaheim, but instead we have to play Montreal.
Anybody but
Who
Montreal.
Anybody but, I mean, you're gonna play good teams eventually. But this
Sure
whole
you are,
first
but
round
to
trope
your point, it's
is
frustrating that it's the first
the
round. And so many
but the
people
Carol
have
here's the
that
thing.
gripe. So many people do, but the fact is kind
It's
of
true.
like we're dealing with the game 7 luck is it's the way it is, you know? And
Well,
somehow champions have to find a way to overcome it. Like, yeah, it sucks that we keep
yeah.
running into the cup champs. Like that's annoying. But is it better to lose in round 1 and get like a longer off season for the boys to heal up, or would you rather go through 2 playoff series and lose in the Eastern Conference Final? Like, does it really matter, you know? I don't know.
Well, that's the
It's
question. I think
frustrating
that
to your
is the
point.
question. It's the question. Well, I will say the last thing about this piece of it was that I agree. Like, is it different going Eastern Conference Final or even Stanley Cup Final and losing or what have you, and or going out in the first round? Is it that much different? I don't know, but I think I look at a team like Carolina who consistently goes to the conference final and loses like all the time. I think there was a stat they showed in one of their games where they've been like 7 times or something crazy, and they keep losing. So they're always good. They're always getting to the second round, even the conference final, and then they lose. So is that really better than us losing? It's like, I don't know. Do you have to win the cup every single year? Like no, obviously you're not going to, and it's not probable. It's not really even possible, I think, with the parity that we see nowadays. So I don't know, but I think success for a season is just enjoying it, and us being able to have fun. Getting to the playoffs is I think a big success. But yeah, everyone's going for the cup, and they're like cup or die, and I'm like, yeah, but that's sort of impossible. So I
Right.
don't know.
To your point, it's hard. It's the hardest trophy in sports to win, and I mean, that's just the way it is. It's just the fact of the matter. That's hockey. That's what makes it so coveted and that's why these athletes are laying it all on the line, because to win it is truly a special honor. And I don't think losing in the first round takes away from the season or this team. In my opinion, I know I asked you this question. This is kind of how this conversation started. I think this year was much improved from last year. I think the addition of Dominic James, I think the elevation in Gage Gonsalves's game, I think Gerard Destu, like all these additions have really helped us. I think even adding Corey Perry at the deadline has helped us. And so that's part of why it's
I
so
agree.
frustrating losing is I think this team was much better suited than last year, especially
Hmm.
considering the injuries we went into the playoffs last year with. So that's why it's so
Hmm.
disappointing. But I want to ask you, you mentioned Kucherov being invisible. Kucherov has no points ever in his career game sevens, and he didn't have a point obviously last night. So what are your thoughts on Kucherov? Is Kucherov an issue, or is he just bad luck? Hasn't been able to score in game sevens. What was your thoughts on how Kucherov played last night?
Hmm. So Kucherov is a little bit of an enigma because he doesn't speak, and so you don't know a lot about him. And people talk about him, but it's interesting because even during the playoffs, even his own team and the media wasn't asking questions about Kucherov. Like maybe off, hand at here and there, and he's not being talked about because he's probably not scoring and stuff. Like we talked about Hagel, right? If we didn't have Hagel, I don't think we even make it to 7 games in this series. And so I think there's certain elements of our team that are more significant than others, absolutely. But the reality is that the line that kept us in for games 6 and 7, in my opinion, and that produced the most difference was Dom James, Gage Gonsalves, and Bjorkstrand. And I'm like, what? How did that line contribute, not even just in the scoring, which they did, but also in other ways on the ice? And so I consistently saw Kucherov throughout this series, especially in the last few games here, having trouble just in general. Like as a player, he was struggling. He was passing the puck east west a lot, and that's what he does. But in the playoffs, there's no space in the ice, and so when you pass the puck east west across the ice, instead of just going dumping it in or what have you, it's going to make life more difficult. It's going to cause more turnovers and breakaways. I don't
Sure.
know what his turnover rate was, but I just saw him struggling. I think during the year you see him and he just looks like he's dancing on the ice, and he's so graceful with it, and he's all over. And it wasn't like Montreal was all over him. There were a few moments on like power plays and things like that where they were, but I felt like they it was tight checking everywhere, so it wasn't particularly different with him than it was with maybe a Braden Point or somebody else. And so our top guys are not showing up. We're paying them the most, and they didn't really show up this series, and they even said it themselves that hey, I need to produce more. I need to produce more, and that's what John Cooper was asking for. He said I need more, and guess what? He got more out of James Gonsalves and Bjorkstrand, and out of guys like Yanni Gord and Guy Gergensen, but he wasn't getting more from the guys that he needed it from Kucherov, who scored 130 points during the year, and he had a few assists during the playoffs. And so yeah, I
He
don't
had
know,
six
is he
points though. Like
injured?
I've heard
Sure.
many people critique Kucherov, and I think that's just the easy way out because we have such a high standard for him. But like when we look at his numbers in the whole series at 5-on-5, he had 63% of the shot attempts while he was on the ice, or the Lightning did. So he's on the ice. We're getting way more shot attempts than Montreal. And the actual shots on net, were 62%. So like he was helping our team generate offense. The goals were 4-2 for the Lightning when Kucherov was on the ice. This is all 5-on-5. And expected goals were 5.07 to 3.45. So he's on the right side of all of those numbers throughout the entire 7-game series. And maybe it's like, okay, well, he did good during the series, but he cost us game 7. And when you look at those numbers, they don't necessarily say that either. Like, he had 85% of the scoring chances when he was on the ice. Not he alone, but the Lightning. When Kucherov's on the ice, the Lightning had 85% of the scoring chances, right? And
I think
obviously,
I'll just come back to the fan who says we scored 0 goals with him on the ice in game 7. So
right.
I don't really care about
But
all the
there's so
numbers.
many. So
When
say Tommy, we win the game, right? Is Montreal saying that about Cole Caulfield? I know Nick Suzuki
yes,
technically scored the first goal, but I mean they've been horrible all series, really. They haven't been effective at
yeah,
5-on-5, and so are they going to say, "Hey, we need Caulfield off our team, or he cost us the series"? Like, I don't know. I just feel like
if
it's
they
harsh to
lost, then
say that,
yes.
especially when his numbers are like they're good. They're not bad in the series. He scored nearly at a point per game pace.
If you're the face of a franchise, you are going to take the brunt of the responsibility for the outcome of your team, whether or not you contributed to that outcome individually. I think if you are a leader on the team, a captain, our captain was not playing for whatever reasons, right? And so therefore, other people had to step up, and the guys with the A needed to step up. You got McDonough, you got Kucherov, you got Gensel, right? Hagel were the A sometimes. The other
Right.
guys at times did too. Those are the guys who need to step up. And Brandon Hagel made a speech on the bench, right? That somehow ignited our team in one of the games.
Right.
That Jake Gensel was scoring consistently. Like he had a lot of assists too. He had lots of points like Kucherov did. But and like you said, Kucherov is more under the radar at times. But the reality is that our if you're the face, then you're the face when we win and you're the face when we lose. And so you're gonna get blamed whether we do well or not. You're gonna say, well, Caulfield, his numbers are great. We won the series and it is what it is. They lose, it's all on Caulfield for not playing well. And so
That's fair, and
it's
I
gonna be
do hear
on
your
you no
point.
matter.
That is fair. Who was the worst player for you then? Not just taking face of the franchise, I'm gonna blame him. But if you had to blame, and we'll go
Sure.
to the positive side after this. But if you had to blame
Okay.
somebody, who is this series on? Like, man, we needed more from fill in the blank.
Ooh, gosh, that's such a tough question. I mean, I think an easy answer is Braden Point. Braden Point is and not just from the series, but from the whole season, right? He had some injuries. That makes sense. I get that. That happened. But you know who else had some injuries? Dominic James. Dominic James didn't play for 25 games, 44 games, right, to end the year. And he comes back in the playoffs. He scores 2 goals and assists. He's consistently like it's not just the stats, it's the eye test. It's seeing him on the ice contributing just to chances and all this stuff. Like if I was to put Dom James next to Braden Point for this whole series and compare just the eye, take off the number, take off the name, and just watch them skate around the ice, I'd be like, I want Dom James on my team. I want that guy on my team.
I
And
mean,
Braden Point, who is a 30, 40 goal scorer, you would expect more from in these moments. And I would expect more from him too. If he's going to be a leader, he's getting paid the big bucks, and that's why he's on the team. And he's even said it himself. So I'm sure he's frustrated himself, but he's my pick, I guess,
I
if
hear
I
your
had to.
point with Braden Point, and I kind of set you up for this, knowing you'd say Braden Point. Because I've talked with a lot
Yeah.
of Lightning fans, and they all say Braden Point. They all say Nikita Kucherov. They all say Andre Vasilevsky. They all say it's Cooper. Like, these are the common things
Mm-hmm.
that Lightning fans are saying. But when I look at the numbers, and I'm just saying what the numbers say, like, Braden
The
Point
numbers guy.
had a far better statistical series than Dominic James. Like, in fact, 5-on-5, Braden
For
Point,
sure.
or sorry, in all situations, so including power play. Braden Point had the best percentage of shot attempts while he's on the ice. Like when he's on the ice, the Lightning are holding the puck the most, essentially. They're having the most chances at the net, the most shot attempts. And
Mm-hmm.
not to say that Dominic James wasn't amazing, because I agree with you. Like Dominic James was amazing, and he definitely willed us to that game 7 and almost willed us through the series. But I hear people complaining about Braden Point. It's just like I don't see it that way. Like I saw him hustling, I saw him in on the forecheck, I saw him get lots of chances, and he just wasn't scoring. But nobody was scoring. So it's like
Well, that's the thing.
how do we blame Braden
I
Point?
I think we can say that too, but I think that the reality is that we're not expecting Dominic James Dominic James is not a 30 or 40 scorer. Dominic James is not getting paid $9.5 million a year. Dominic James has not been on the team for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is,
So it
leading
goes
the
back
team.
to the
I don't
standard, the expectation that
Yeah, the
starts.
standard is higher. And so if the standard was lower and we had both of them at the same standard, I would say it's going to be totally different. And I would look at the stats to say that, right? If there's two players with the exact same standard, we can look at the stats to say, hey, my eye test kind of sucked. But the reality is that they don't have the same standard and that he needs to produce. There need to be numbers to back up what he's doing on the ice with all the stats and the attempts and all this kind of stuff. And so I think, yes, think people blame him because, again, he's the face and he has a standard that's higher than those other guys. And so those guys rose above their standard. And the reality is that the other guys kind of went below their standard. So who do you blame? The people who went below their standard, not the guys who went above theirs.
That's fair. I mean,
My
you're
opinion.
looking at the baseline and calling it a question. I
What
just
about
think
you,
it's
though? What
interesting.
about you?
Like Braden Point, just more stats. Like I just find them fascinating. The Lightning outshot the Canadiens 93-36 when Braden Point was on the ice. Like that's a significant advantage, but yet
Yeah.
Braden Point's taking the blame. I guess it's fine. I struggle with that as a fan because all of the guys. Like I don't like picking on any of the guys because I just really believed in the team and I'm really like as a fan proud of our team. I don't. Again,
Yeah.
it's just there's no words.
Like
There's
how
no
many
way to
goals did
sum
we
it up.
score?
Not enough. I would say the guys
Not
that
enough.
disappointed me the most to answer those questions though is like Ryan McDonough and Eric Chernak. I mean, they were great, and they felt like to the eye test they were really being strong defensively. But when you look at again those numbers and stuff, it's like they're at 25% shot attempts when they're on the ice. So something's happening when they're on the ice, and it's not in the Lightning's favor. So I didn't necessarily notice them game in, game out. I thought they were playing fine, but the numbers don't show that. And so those are the guys that I'm like, we got to get a little bit more out of you in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But again, there's nothing to say. And I'm not in the camp that says we need to blow everything up or this team, it doesn't have what it takes anymore. Like I think they showed very clearly in Game 7, even Game 6, that they do have what it takes, right? I think it was right there all along, and it just took us too long to draw it out. That's the way I look at it. Do you think Dobish or Vasilevsky had the better series?
Ooh. I think that Vasilevsky had better games in the series. I think Dobish had a better series. And so I think that the reality was I didn't see a game where Dobish was giving up consistently weak goals necessarily. I think he could have definitely, like, for example, the overtime goal in Game 6. I think he definitely it was right there in the crease for him to do something with. And Gonzalez had 3 opportunities to get that puck in the back of the net. So I do see that. I mean, it was a pretty even goalie battle, all things considered. But I think Dovish, I mean, if you want to be a stats guy, from my understanding, looking at the stats, he had the better stats. So if we're talking about stats, those are the stats. But from that perspective, yes, I think Vasilevsky had better games within the series, but not as a whole series.
Not
in
as
my opinion.
consistent.
So, not as consistent. Yeah, I mean, I know that they were fluky goals, and so it's frustrating with Game 7, and so I might not even count that. But like, he definitely had the best game of the series, Game 6.
Yeah, he
Clearly the
did.
best game of the series for goaltending, but
I don't know. I'm
not the
gonna
best.
disagree with you there again too, Tommy. I think I've said it on this podcast. I just don't know that Dobish. It'll be really interesting to see what Buffalo does to Dobish. That's what I'll say. Because I don't think we tested him enough, and I think Montreal is just incredible at defense. They got in all the right lanes. They interrupted all the right plays. I mean, we saw, like, Gage Gonsalves' goal net front is really one of the few examples from the series where we had somebody free when the rebound came off Dobish to put it in the back of the net. Most times our sticks were tied up, and that's credit to their defense, right? So I look at Vasi's performance and I say, like, he was our defense in a lot of games, right? Our defense kind of let him out to dry, and he would still save the puck. But I think it was opposite for Montreal. I think we couldn't get past their defense, and our weak, like, just get it on net. Dobish was able to stop it because they weren't as high-quality chances. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what Buffalo does to Dobish and see how if Montreal can continue that level of defending against a Buffalo team. That'll tell us a lot about the Lightning. Maybe the Lightning aren't everything we believe them to be, you know?
Like I said, I'm brought back to Game 7 where I said none of those things mattered. We won the game, not the score, and we're out of the playoffs, and that sucks. And so I think we already kind of brought the positivity to this as well of all the ways that I think our team played well during the playoffs. And I'm sure that in the future episode, we'll be recapping the year about, all the things that happen and kind of go from there. So
Sure. It's a disappointing reality, Tommy. Lightning hockey is over. It is the countdown. It's like 150 days until it resumes. So it's going to be a long wait. And until then, we'll just have to continue following the team, talking about what we have in front of us, which is signings, maybe trades, training camp eventually. So, I mean, it's as unfortunate as it is, the season is over and it is now off-season mode. So,
sorry, if you everybody listening to this sad cast.
Yes, this is a sad one.
I apologize for that.
This is a sad one, and there are better days ahead. That's what I'll say.
Yep.
We'll debrief the team. We'll talk about everything in future podcasts. We're going to go back to our normal schedule, so you can expect episodes out every Thursday morning. We'll be recording them on Wednesday nights, and we look forward to doing it. I mean, again, I said at the beginning, the most disappointing part for me is that Lightning hockey is gone, right? There's no more. But part of why Bolts Breakdown exists is for the people like me who just want Lightning hockey to continue. So we're going to keep talking about it. We're going to find creative ways to keep the Lightning on the forefront of our minds throughout the offseason, and we look forward to doing that every single week. Just a few housekeeping notes before we go. Bolts Breakdown is a resource for Tampa Bay Lightning fans. It is for fans, by fans. There's a blog that is released every single Monday, and that'll continue throughout the offseason as well. And then there's this podcast, as we just talked about, released every Thursday morning. But thank you for following us during this series. Thank you for watching these episodes. I am very proud of this Lightning team, and I believe that next year will be our year. We'll come back stronger, better, and chase the championship we all crave as Bolts Nation. So thanks for watching, and we will see you not this Wednesday, but the following one. Go Bolts.